More ballot drama is brewing in the Sunshine State.
Since election night, nearly 100,000 uncounted votes have just magically turned up.
It's easy to see how people outside of Florida can look at this and say, nobody can be this stupid. There must be something nefarious going on here.
Multiple fast-moving wildfires on both ends of the state burn out of control.
Now with the death toll at 42, the Camp Fire has become the deadliest wildfire in California history.
The 6,000-strong caravan of migrants continues inching closer to our border at this very moment.
That is an assault on the national integrity of the United States of America.
The new reports suggest that Democrats are getting ready to fire 85 subpoenas that cover pretty much every aspect of the Trump presidency.
They believe that they have a mandate from their base to attack the president.
Comic book legend Stan Lee has died.
Best known as the creator of the Marvel Universe, this guy had such an incredibly interesting life.
If you're in the Northeast, pack a slicker.
Pack an
and
umbrella.
Bring an umbrella because it is pouring. It is what we used to call in Kansas a frog strangler out there.
Right.
What does that mean?
Frogs look up, their mouth goes open, and they die. Well, I don't know that actually happened, but it was a figure of speech.
Well, all I would say is it bragging to say that Philip Phillips sang this song on our show?
He did.
Right. Is it bragging?
Well,
you like to brag about that, and you like to brag about the fact that you made them all famous. This morning, I was watching Fox and Friends First with Heather, and they played Imagine Dragons song, and I thought, Brian wants to know how many people are in the band. He probably made them famous.
Right.
And then I heard them say, it's raining here in New York, and I packed my umbrella because of our coverage.
We've come full circle. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this very busy, damp Tuesday in New York City. But let's now look at the Sunshine State of Florida, because this morning, more ballot drama is brewing down south.
Yeah, they worked through the night. I don't know if they're getting anything done, though. The statewide recounting is in full swing, but officials in Florida's largest counties are scrambling. We put that in bold in the prompter for a reason, because they better hurry up.
I think they're still trying to remove those first pages. They haven't even started the recount yet, if I'm correct. Let me ask. In Broward County, that is. Griff Jenkins is live in that county at the Office of Elections. Griff, have they started that recount yet, or are they still trying to take off those first pages?
Good morning, guys. They still have not started the recount. They're just separating that first page. They're at the end of the alphabet around letter X of the mail of the voting day. They did the early voting. Now they're doing the electoral day. They've still got to do the vote by mails. And let's take you in that room now, because this video is now more compelling than watching eagles, giraffes, or pandas at the zoo. They are separating these pages. They've got to do the vote by mail after this. That's going to take a couple of hours. Then we're likely going to have a calibration of these machines before the actual tabulation begins. But yesterday, we had a moment in the afternoon that really caught us by surprise, and that is the supervisor here of elections, Dr. Brenda Snipes, who is at the center of this firestorm, actually talked to the media and addressed the mistakes that she's made. Here is some of what she had to say.
The lawsuits as they are written certainly cast aspersions on my character. I've worked here for about 15 years, and I have to say this is the first time that this office or I have been under such attacks. So if we make mistakes, we own mistakes.
And a surprising tweet from former Governor Jeb Bush yesterday saying that for him, there was no question Snipes failed to comply with the law on multiple counts, and he called for her to be removed after the recounts. Meanwhile, on the national level, candidates Senator Nelson and Governor Scott just trading barbs at each other. Listen to this.
Scott cannot oversee this process in a fair and impartial way, and thus he should remove himself from any role in the recount process.
My goal is that we follow the law. We know Brenda Snipes mixed illegal ballots with legal ballots. We know they've not let party officials in. The courts have said follow the law.
So here's where we stand. They've still got to finish the recount, which hasn't started yet. We expect that around 9, and the deadline is Thursday to get that done. The lawyers here believe that margin of error is going to be under that 0.25% point, so we're actually going to have a hand recount. We also know north of us, the other county having trouble. In Palm Beach County yesterday, the election supervisor, Susan Booker, saying that she finds it impossible to get the recount done on time. When you ask the lawyers here what happens if they don't get the recount done on time, that's an open question, but we'll certainly have legal challenges, guys.
Griff, I never seen this Palm Beach County people. They go, well, they didn't even seem to try. They knew they couldn't do it. The other thing is it true when they do the hand vote, it's just going to be overvote and undervote, not every vote, correct?
That's correct. Here in Broward County, Brian, there's about 714,000 ballots cast, they believe. Of those, they estimate some 55,000 maybe over and under votes. But at that point, I'll be coming to you live from a warehouse where we'll see table after table set up of volunteers and lawyers looking over every single one of those over or under votes, meaning that they either didn't mark any answer on the question or they marked too many answers on the question. And at that point, they'll try and determine the intent of that voter. That's going to be time consuming. Ultimately, we have the deadline of Sunday for the official vote to be logged in there. We'll see if we make that.
Griff, why the problems in those two counties? And it's not the first time we've seen it in that area. When 60 plus other counties in the state of Florida got it right, why didn't these two counties, why weren't they prepared?
Great question. 65 of 67 counties got their act together. These two traditionally have failed to meet deadlines and have had numerous problems, and that's why you have people like Governor Jeb Bush calling for Snipes' removal. Right. It's important to note that it was Governor Bush in 2003 that removed Snipes' predecessor, a woman named Oliphant, who was in clear violation of rules and failing to meet deadlines. He appointed Snipes as a solution to the problem. She now is clearly becoming the problem.
All right, Griff, thank you very much. By the way, I just was looking in the Palm Beach Post, and according to coverage this morning, the Board of Supervisors there, after yesterday saying, we can't make it, now they feel they can make it regarding the Senate race. However, it looks as if they probably will miss the deadline, which is Thursday at 3 o'clock, with the Ag Commissioner and the governor races.
Well, with the governor race, you know, it's 36,000 vote difference. We've never even had 14,000 with the Senate race, 36,000 with DeSantis and Gillum. We've never had somebody in a recount make up for thousands of votes. I remember with the Bush situation, it's hundreds. With Norm Coleman and Al Franken, it was hundreds. This is a bridge too far if history is any device.
Well, listen to this. Mark Elias, who's the attorney for Bill Nelson, now he wants to change the goalpost. He wants to change the laws. And keep in mind, the election happened last Tuesday. On Tuesday, this was the current law, that if you mailed in a ballot or you had an absentee ballot, it had to be in by 7 p.m. so that they could count it and they could turn those numbers in 30 minutes after the polls closed at 7:30. If you live outside the U.S., if you're in the military,
serving in the military,
that's right. You can still send those. Those are still coming in, and they will be counted up until this coming Sunday, 10 days after the election. But Bill Nelson's attorney is now saying he wants every vote counted. He wants even that overseas rule to be applied to all the ballots.
Right, and his attorney said this, breaking, no Floridian should have their rightful vote denied because of the mail or post office delays. We are suing to protect these ballots, count all the votes. So they're trying to change that. Also, regarding the exact match law, where the signatures have got to match on the voter registration and on the provisional ballot, the judge still has not ruled. But nonetheless, Mr. Nelson says, you know, if they don't match, so what?
Well, and he's saying, because he said he doesn't want these non-experts checking. You know, usually I think most people can look at how you registered to vote and your signature, and then look at your ballot. If they're not similar, then what they say down in the state of Florida is those votes are thrown out, and he's challenging that, saying they don't have to look similar.
Yeah. So here's what Rick Scott Scam said. Here's some more lawsuits that Elias could get. could get Bill Nelson and Chuck Schumer to pay him for. Allow people who didn't vote but might vote to vote anyway, preferably online or via Snapchat. Allow candidates who didn't run but might now like to participate. Allow people in southern Georgia to vote. They are very close to Florida. Allow anyone who wasn't registered in Florida in 2000 to vote for Al Gore and have these results counted towards the 2000 election results.
See, now everything's so heavy down there, but finally a moment of levity regarding that. Also, yesterday, Rick Scott dropped his demand that in court that they impound the voting machines. But they were able to drum up 3 more deputies who will be on location. Apparently one will monitor the on-site cameras, another will look at the storage of USB drives, and a third will supervise. So more security down in the ballot.
Bill Nelson also wants Thursday's the deadline for the recount, and he wants that date loosened. He wants to have more time.
He wants to go to Washington and just stand up for the picture and go through, pick out an office today. We'll see if he shows up. Katherine Harris, remember her? She was Secretary of State in Florida during the 2000 election mess. She talked about what how the problem then is a lot like now.
We're a nation of laws. Rule of law is the most important bedrock in our country,
Yes.
and no one can wax eloquently more than you on that subject. But the most important aspect of these elected supervisors of elections in each county, I think we have a basic expectation that they're going to operate with courage and integrity. Funny that you have to say courage when following the law, but this is a critical issue that they follow the law as it's written, not as they want it to be. Our election laws are sufficient to handle this. My advice to these supervisors of elections would be that they must follow the law. No matter what they do, half the people are going to be very unhappy with them, but their only safe harbor is to follow the law.
And that is key. So all eyes are on Florida. The deadline officially is 3 o'clock on Thursday. Will they make it? Stay tuned.
Yeah, Republicans lost a key seat in Arizona. They flipped it, so the Democrats have now flipped 2 seats, Nevada and Arizona. Republicans can afford to lose this one, but they still would have the majority. This would give them 52.
Jeff Flake stepped down, and the Democrat just won. Martha McSally, she conceded and did a little video with her dog.
That's right. Although there's some speculation that Governor Ducey out there might actually appoint McSally to take over the seat that is currently being held on a temporary basis.
That'll be it by John Kyle.
Yeah, by John.
All right, 11 minutes now after the hour. Jillian, who I like a lot better than Rob, because she was a lot nicer to me on the team.
Yes. What did he say that made you upset?
He didn't want to toss to me.
No.
It was a reluctant
almost
toss
refused.
to tease. Am I right, Chris?
All in good fun. We will have more in Arizona coming up in just a few minutes, but first, here's this Fox News alert. The Camp Fire in Northern California is now the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in state history. 42 people killed and nearly 6,500 homes destroyed. Officials now looking into whether faulty power lines are to blame. President Trump approving an expedited disaster declaration as crews work against dry and windy conditions, fueling flames around the state. We will have a live report on the wildfires coming up, so make sure you stay tuned for that a little bit later in this hour. Anyway, that is a look at that headline. Now let's go on to this. Democrat Stacey Abrams clinging to hope after a judge extends today's deadline to certify votes in Georgia's race for governor. The state must wait until the end of the week to declare a winner between Abrams and Republican Brian Kemp. Multiple lawsuits were filed on Abrams' behalf, claiming thousands of ballots may not have been counted properly. Kemp leads by nearly 60,000 votes. That's a look at your headlines.
She lost.
Yeah.
All right.
Please.
Thank you very much. Just a point of clarification. Senator Nelson's complaint against the state of Florida argues that rejecting ballots for mismatched signatures in the first place is unconstitutional.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Meanwhile, the migrant caravan packed with about 6,500 people is getting closer to our border. So how will the U.S. handle the huge influx of people all at once? We're going to talk to a Border Patrol chief on the ground coming up next.
The caravan that doesn't stop. And could Hillary Clinton be erased from the history books? The big move that's about to happen.
And you never did think that it ever would happen again. In America, did you? You never did think that we'd ever get together.
All right, here we go. Let's talk caravan. Law enforcement has begun to prepare for the approaching migrant caravan making its way to our southern border. Got about 6,500 coming our way. Troops have been deployed to protect the border. You know that. But how prepared is law enforcement? Can they handle the wave of thousands of people as we watch them get closer and closer? We have a Border Patrol agent here to tell us. He's Sector Chief Manuel Padilla, Jr. of Texas. Manuel, when they get here, they're now going to be facing troops and an executive order that should be pushing them to the port of entry. What's it going to look like?
Well, we're, as law enforcement, as Border Patrol and CBP officers at the ports of entry, what we are looking for, Brian, is an orderly situation where if people are showing up at our borders, they will not enter illegally, one, in mass groups, and then secondly, those that are seeking asylum be able to apply for asylum at the ports of entry. That's a designated place in an orderly fashion. So the ports of entry have a very core mission of facilitating trade and travel. They are very, very busy with their day-to-day mission of facilitating trade and travel. So we have some limitations as far as how many people we can process for asylum. So we're working closely with Mexico on shelters, increasing shelters, and having a controlled situation.
Yeah, but it's not going to be controlled. You know, you already have 1,000 a day coming. Now we're going to add 6,500. It's going to be chaos. What can the soldiers do?
Well, the soldiers have done a lot of work already. Primarily, we've been at this for about 2 weeks. We have phased out the planning, if you will. Right now, I can tell you, Brian, that we have hardened the ports of entry, ready to close them down if need be. And we've also place some impediments, some obstacles between the ports of entry. So right. Again, what we are shooting for is an orderly situation. We will not tolerate the crowds, right. The type of chaos that you saw in southern Mexico. That is right. That is not going to happen.
30 seconds, Chief. How outrageous is it?
Again,
how outrageous is it?
Our goal is to make sure that we have an orderly situation.
Right. Let's hope for orderly. But how outrageous is it? Hold it a second. How outrageous is it? Mexico? I don't know if your earpiece is working. How outrageous is it that Mexico is providing trucks and transportation?
I can tell you, Brian, we are working closely with Mexico. We're talking to Mexico. So some of the things that you see on TV or on the news, you know, some of that may be happening, but I can tell you the communications with Mexico continue.
Right, but what are they doing? They're helping them get here quicker. It's outrageous. Sector Chief Manuel Padilla, thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, 10 minutes before the bottom of the hour. Democrats even control the House, don't even control the House yet, but they're already promising an investigation overload.
We will summon, if necessary, subpoena Mr. Whitaker.
The investigations are sexy. They're interesting.
Is that really a good strategy for their party? We're going to debate that next. And Tom Cruise has the need for speed, but Top Gun 2 isn't flying into theaters anytime soon, and you won't believe why. 6:24 here in New York City, back with a Fox News alert. The Camp Fire in Northern California is now the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in California state history. Ray Bogan is live near an airport near Los Angeles as dry and windy conditions fuel the flames around the state. Ray?
Steve, good morning. We're at the Incident Command Center for the Woolsey and Hill fires, where in just a couple of hours, hundreds of firefighters will arrive for a 24-hour shift. In the meantime, some of them are behind us sleeping in tents. One man is even sleeping on the ground in his sleeping bag. Now, 42 people have died up north in the Camp Fire. They've been found in their homes and cars that they've been trying to escape. At last update, it was 30% contained, and CAL FIRE doesn't expect to have full containment for another week. Nearly 6,500 homes have been destroyed, including some belonging to firefighters and their families.
It's just absolutely heartbreaking to drive through Paradise and see the level of destruction. My family lost their home in the fire. My parents did. My grandmother did.
Here in Southern California, the Woolsey fire, as at last update, was 93,000 acres and 30% contained. In both fires, crews are working against dry, windy conditions and steep terrain. But California is getting help. President Trump has approved a major disaster declaration, tweeting in part, wanted to respond quickly in order to alleviate some of the incredible suffering going on. I'm with you all the way. Meantime, CAL FIRE is thanking their partners that have come from 17 states and as far away as Alaska and Georgia. Steve, back to you.
All right, they need the help. Ray Bogan, live in Camarillo, California. Thank you, sir. All right, Ainsley?
Okay, thank you, Steve. Well, Democrats not even in control of the House yet, right? Already promising an investigation overload into the Trump administration. Watch.
Let's face it, the investigations are sexy. They're interesting.
Well, we are responsible. We are not scattershot. We are not doing any investigation for a political purpose.
Our very first witness after January 3rd, we will subpoena or we will summon, if necessary, subpoena Mr. Whitaker.
They have a number of tools at their disposal, including the subpoena power.
But is that really a good path to success for their party? Here to debate this is RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany and Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov. Jessica, I'll start with you since you're the Democrat. Do you think that's going to work? Do the American people really want that investigation?
They want people in Washington to get things done, and Nancy Pelosi was very clear that she wanted to legislate and make sure that we could work together to have some accomplishments on the board as we go into 2020. But the House Oversight Committee has a role. It's even in the title, oversight. And elections have consequences, as Kayleigh, my dear friend, has been telling me for a couple years now. The American people said they want Democrats to take control of the House, and it is therefore their job to look into these things. And if you look at the list of investigations, considering the fact that 64 subpoenas by Democrats have been blocked by Republicans since Trump entered office, there's good reason for them to be looking into the payments to Stormy Daniels, for instance. There was a Wall Street Journal piece about how that would have been a campaign finance violation, to look at Jim Comey's firing, to look how the Trump family still profits off of their name and their businesses, even though they were Trump was supposed to divest himself completely. These are legitimate concerns, and if Republicans had held the House, they would still be talking about Hillary Clinton's emails.
All right, Jessica, thank you for that perspective. Kayleigh, I want you to weigh in on this. I was out and about and talking to friends over the weekend, and some people said the only way for civility to happen, and even Hillary Clinton has said this, is for Democrats to take control or for them to run a strong candidate in 2020 and for them to win. Is that a threat when Hillary is saying the only way that we can have civility is you have to go to the polls and vote for a Democrat if you want all this to end?
Oh, it certainly is a threat. Democrats are interested in obstructing and incivility and resisting and not working on behalf of the American people. And all the facts you need are the fact that they have been behind the scenes compiling a list of investigations. It used to be 13. Now Axios reports it's 85 targets. They want to investigate, but the American people want them to legislate alongside Republicans. And you know, Ainsley, we have a golden opportunity here. President Trump has set up the ability to have bipartisan change. When he talks about infrastructure, when he talks about middle-class tax cuts, prison reform, paid family leave, this is something Ivanka Trump has been heralding. Democrats have said they've wanted this for a decade or more. Well, we have the opportunity now. We can come together and better the lives of the American people. Put aside the investigating, put aside the subpoenas, work for that hardworking mother who wants to stay at home with her kid a little bit longer. Paid family leave is possible if Nancy Pelosi just takes one step towards us.
Jessica, she said that Axios has 85 topics that the Democrats are saying they're going to target. We have a long list of those things that they want to change and they want to do. Do you think that that's going to work though? Because when you're talking to your Democratic friends, aren't they like, enough? We want, you said you want change, you want things to happen, you want things to go well for this country. But if it's an investigation after investigation after investigation, how does that bring our country together and provide unity?
Oh, I don't think it necessarily does if you go for all 85 and that's all that you're doing, but we can walk and chew gum. We're very advanced folks, even though we're liberals. And if you look at someone like Kristen Sinema, who, big congratulations to our new senator from Arizona, she voted with President Trump 60% of the time. That's certainly a bipartisan type of person that we're sending down to Washington, or She's coming in a new elevated role there. There are a number of people who won all across the country, especially in the middle of the country, states that President Trump won, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, who are very interested in working in a bipartisan fashion. Nancy Pelosi, if she wins the speakership again, has made that her priority. So I'm not interested in 2 years of only investigations, but I am interested in 2 years of working together on things we can get done. And I totally agree, prison reform, infrastructure, those would be great wins and boons for American society and benefit both Democrats and Republicans. But this idea that because we're in charge now, we should just play nice and back off any investigations when we know there are people still talking about Benghazi on the other side who, want to haul everyone for Fusion GPS and Devin Nunes.
You can't compare that. Look, you can't compare the loss of 4 Americans in Benghazi and wanting to investigate that with the Democrat goal of looking into Stormy Daniels and President Trump's tax returns. These are frivolous investigations. Let's work together. Let's better the lives of the American people. Democrats have a choice. But Congressman Nadler is overheard on a train saying, hey, let's impeach Kavanaugh. That's not what the American people want.
Listen to him on State of the Union on Sunday. He was very clear about this.
Well,
we have to go.
We'll leave it there.
Next
Ladies, gotta go.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you
Bailey.
both.
Thanks, Jessica. Americans have the ability to get driver's license, but what about illegal immigrants? The plan that's gaining steam this morning. We'll tell you about that. And should that top election official in Broward County be removed amid the ballot chaos down there?
The canvassing board had gone through to determine which ones they wanted to accept, which ones they wanted to reject, and then after that jumbled some of them together, saying, oops, we got them mixed up. It's an example of the kind of blunders we've seen not just this year, but in years prior. And when you combine that with Broward County election managers saying they didn't know or wouldn't say how many ballots they still have to count days after the election, they need more time. They don't see how they can complete a machine recount by Thursday, while some counties are already there or very close to it. When you look at all of these things, it's easy to see how people outside of Florida can look at this and say, nobody can be this stupid. There must be something nefarious going on here.
And that from an investigative reporter at the Fox affiliate in Tampa, Florida.
Can they be that stupid? Let's bring in Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, Fox News contributor and author of a brand new book, Rare, Medium, or Done Well, Make the Most of Your Life, and it's out today. Congratulations, Governor.
Thank you very much. You'll be happy to know it is a non-political book for a time when we need a little refreshment after a long political year.
Take that, Anthony Robbins. We got our own inspiration guy.
I think we're going to have you on later to talk about the book because I am curious, how do you make the most out of your life? We all want to know that. But let's talk about what's going on in your state down in Florida. I know you live down there in the Panhandle now. I mean, this is chaos. Do you agree with that investigative reporter saying that we can't be this stupid, there's something nefarious going on?
Yeah, this is not just mere incompetence because it continues to happen in the one county of Florida that is heavily Democratic, that has shown that it has incredible levels of corruption, as we saw from even the fallout from the Parkland shooting and the sheriff's office and the fact that elected officials in that county don't even have the confidence of some of the people who work for them. This particular election official, Brenda Snipes, has been under fire before. Everybody, I think, knew that the spotlight was going to be on Florida and on Broward County, and then to have this happen again. I mean, come on. This is not accidental. If it is, then there is a level of incompetence that will make the history books. And that's why I think you just can't keep saying, oh, the election's over. Not yet. Broward County just found some ballots, and maybe they're in the trunk of a car. Heck, I'm in Nashville today. I think it's very possible that I could look under the bed. I might find some Broward County ballots there. Who knows?
Yeah, everybody down in Florida is joking about it, no doubt about it. Jeb Bush, though, very serious about it. He was governor when she took office. He tweeted out, there's no question that Broward County Supervisor of Elections, Brenda Snipes, failed to comply with Florida law on multiple counts, undermining Floridians' confidence in our electoral process. Supervisor Snipes should be removed from her office following the recounts. But, Governor, you know, there are a number of people who are saying that now, who had a chance to do something about it before they actually started counting the votes.
You know, Steve, it's a very big thing to take someone out of office, and that could open up a big controversy. I think the fact that they didn't indicates that they really believe that there's no way under heaven that this would ever happen again, that Broward County would be so brazen as to try to swing an election and do so many different things that violate the Constitution of the law. Keep in mind that Bay County, which is just next to me, where I live up in the Panhandle, had a terrible hurricane. Cat 4 destroyed a lot of things. They made their election work. How do you do that less than a month after a hurricane, but Broward County can't even find all the ballots, and then after the election, when they needed the few to make the Democrats win, suddenly they showed up.
Governor,
in
that county, they did, that you're talking about, I think Bay County, they did allow 150 people to vote via email, which apparently is against the law.
Well, there's some question about whether it was against the law due to the fact that these were people who were overseas and military and a provision for that. But the fact is that in Bay County, they were able to conduct elections. They had the ballots in place the night of the election. They counted the ballots in an orderly manner.
And I believe they had a 52% turnout.
Yeah, and they didn't have any ballots, show up in the trunk of someone's car or in a school stuck away in a storage closet, as happened in Broward County.
All right, Governor, this is what Rick Scott's campaign spokesperson said, Chris Hartline. Rick Scott won the election by the margin that's mathematically impossible to close in a recount without fraud. So why pursue a recount? In the history of our country, we've never had a recount and overturn a gap between 10 and 14,000. This is an exercise that we already know the outcome to. And if this is, in fact, if you back what Chris Hartline's saying, shouldn't the governor be going to Washington today as a senator-elect?
Yeah, I think he should. I do think he is the senator-elect from Florida. I understand that if you have an election that is close by Florida law, if it's less than 0.5%, there's an automatic recount. That's fine. Have a recount. What you can have, though, is a recount in which you start showing up with ballots that weren't there on the night of election. Or when you take ballots that have already been disqualified and you toss them in with the ones that are qualified. That's really, I think, the bigger controversy than whether there's going to be a recount.
Well, now he wants to change the law after the election so that all those votes count. We'll see.
Yeah, and look, you can't change the rules after the game is played. One of the big things Democrats are going to have to decide is, will they become a party that will accept the results of an election? They didn't accept the results of an election in 2016. They've never accepted that Donald Trump is president. And they're not accepting that, you've had elected Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott in Florida.
Yeah. Well,
they got to let it go.
It's all over Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Unless there's a hand recount. New book called Rare, Medium, or Well Done. Mike Huckabee joining us from Nashville. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.
All right, Jillian has some headlines for us. She's upstairs. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. And this is a story we've been following for a little while now. And police believe a missing teen is alive after being kidnapped more than a week ago. Officers say they're following every conceivable lead to bring 13-year-old Anya Aguilar home. They want to question the man in this surveillance video seen walking around her North Carolina neighborhood. Police found the stolen SUV used to kidnap her abandoned in nearby woods. Witnesses say she was forced into the vehicle right outside her home. New York could soon allow illegal immigrants to apply for driver's licenses. State officials could pass the controversial bill next year when the New York legislature is entirely under Democratic control. Governor Andrew Cuomo is expected to sign it. Right now, 12 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico allow illegals to apply for driver's licenses. Hillary Clinton could soon be taken out of the history books. The Texas Board of Education voting today to remove the failed 2016 presidential candidate from its curriculum. Officials also voting to get rid of historical figures Helen Keller and 1960 and 1964 GOP presidential nominee Barry Goldwater. Critics say the recommendations are partisan. The board insists the reductions will free up more time for teachers. Actor Tom Cruise wants to buzz the tower on his own. The Top Gun star will fly a plane in the upcoming sequel.
Feel the need for speed.
Paramount Studios says Cruise will take to the skies in the new movie, but he will not fly a fighter jet. The sequel is set to be released in 2020. Let's look at your headlines. Send it back to you.
That is great. We shot a story down in Texas with the guy who trains all these stunt guys. He said he's so fun to work with. He shows up way early, stays late.
He does so much of his own stuff.
Yeah, but can he fly a plane? That's what
he's going to learn.
do.
I guarantee he'll be able to.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much.
All right, Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker facing a new court challenge. One state says his job belongs to Rod Rosenstein. Judge Napolitano is on the case, and he's walking over here.
All right, here comes the judge. Later today, Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker facing a court challenge. The state of Maryland asking a federal judge to declare his appointment as Attorney General unlawful, claiming the position actually belongs to Rod Rosenstein.
Well, here to weigh in on this is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, what do you think?
Good morning, guys. I think that it was an unlawful appointment because there are two statutes that govern who can become acting Attorney General. And while they have different procedures, they both have two requirements, and it's the same. One is that at the time you become acting Attorney General, you have a position in the Justice Department, A, appointed by the President, and B, confirmed by the Senate.
Right.
Now, the Congress was very careful when it wrote these laws. It didn't want somebody running the 90,000 employees in the Justice Department and the thousands of criminal investigations and prosecutions that go on every day who had not been vetted by the Senate. Mr. Whitaker, now acting Attorney General Whitaker, although we'll find out later today if he's still acting Attorney General.
Why later today?
About which more in a minute.
Right.
Was not in a position in the DOJ where he was appointed by the President or confirmed by the Senate. He was just hired by Jeff Sessions to be his Chief of Staff. Why later today? Because the state of Maryland is in litigation against the DOJ about the Affordable Care Act. There are parts of the Affordable Care Act the DOJ has refused to defend, including, by the way, pre-existing conditions coverage, which the President is now in favor of and most of the country is. And once Matt Whitaker came in and made decisions in that litigation, the state of Maryland is about to say to a federal judge, he can't make these decisions because he was unlawfully appointed. Therefore, you should remove him. And under the law, the next person would be Rod Rosenstein.
But isn't that going to be automatically challenged?
Of course it will be. If he is removed, then the DOJ will challenge it to the Fourth Circuit and it'll eventually get to the Supreme Court. Has the Attorney General of the United States ever been removed by a federal judge because the appointment was illegal? No. This would be a first. But I believe that the Maryland argument is the correct one. This person is not legally qualified to be Attorney General under the statutes that Congress has written.
The Wall Street Journal today says the Justice Department did a review and they backed the Whitaker appointment. They said it's constitutional.
Well, look, I realize there are arguments on both sides, and I also realize that firing Jeff Sessions is very destabilizing to the DOJ. Now, getting rid of the person who succeeded him will be even more destabilizing. We're almost at the point of the Saturday Night Massacre in the Nixon administration where you didn't even know who was running the DOJ or the FBI, and you can't have musical chairs. Excuse me. But you have to have a lawfully appointed person in there because he's sixth in line to the presidency. The power that he has with respect to criminal prosecutions is awesome, and he must have undergone Senate vetting before he can have it.
You said he's the acting one. He won't be able to be the AG because the acting can't be the AG. So when will the president appoint an AG?
Soon, I hope.
Yeah.
Well, then that's
confirmed by the Senate. In the interim, question. Is the behavior and are the decisions made by Matt Whitaker lawful and valid? In my view, no.
What a mess.
In my view, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, love you, Brian.
You went to
Brian,
I forgot to go to law school. That's the only thing.
Brian, go Giants.
Oh, my goodness. At this point, do they really have to win like this?
All right, Judge, thank you very much. Meanwhile, take a look at this. The photographs are powerful. An American flag found intact amid the devastating California wildfires. Now the police officers who found it want to find the owner. Those officers join us live next.
That's awesome.
Later today, Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker facing a court challenge. The state of Maryland asking a federal judge to declare his appointment as Attorney General unlawful, claiming the position actually belongs to Rod Rosenstein.
Well, here to weigh in on this is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, what do you think?
Good morning, guys. I think that it was an unlawful appointment because there are two statutes that govern who can become acting Attorney General. And while they have different procedures, they both have two requirements, and it's the same. One is that at the time you become acting attorney general, you have a position in the Justice Department, A, appointed by the president, and B, confirmed by the Senate.
Right.
Now, the Congress was very careful when it wrote these laws. It didn't want somebody running the 90,000 employees in the Justice Department and the thousands of criminal investigations and prosecutions that go on every day who had not been vetted by the Senate. Mr. Whitaker, now acting Attorney General Whitaker, although we'll find out later today if he's still acting Attorney General.
Why later today?
About which more in a minute.
Right.
Was not in a position in the DOJ where he was appointed by the president or confirmed by the Senate. He was just hired by Jeff Sessions to be his chief of staff. Why later today? Because the state of Maryland is in litigation against the DOJ about the Affordable Care Act. There are parts of the Affordable Care Act the DOJ has refused to defend, including, by the way, pre-existing conditions coverage, which the president is now in favor of and most of the country is. And once Matt Whitaker came in and made decisions in that litigation, the state of Maryland is about to say to a federal judge, he can't make these decisions because he was unlawfully appointed. Therefore, you should remove him. And under the law, the next person would be Rod Rosenstein.
But isn't that going to be automatically challenged?
Of course it will be. If he is removed, then the DOJ will challenge it to the Fourth Circuit and it'll eventually get to the Supreme Court. Has the Attorney General of the United States ever been removed by a federal judge because the appointment was illegal? No. This would be a first. But I believe that the Maryland argument is the correct one. This person is not legally qualified to be Attorney General under the statutes that Congress has written.
The Wall Street Journal today says the Justice Department did a review and they backed the Whitaker appointment. They said it's constitutional.
Well, look, I realize there are arguments on both sides, and I also realize that firing Jeff Sessions is very destabilizing to the DOJ. Now, getting rid of the person who succeeded him will be even more destabilizing. We're almost at the point of the Saturday Night Massacre in the Nixon administration where you didn't even know who was running the DOJ or the FBI, and you can't have musical chairs. Excuse me. But you have to have a lawfully appointed person in there because he's sixth in line to the presidency. The power